Let me tell you something about running the last bakery in the universe. The rent is cheap, but the customers are few. My name is Kael. I used to fly spaceships through dangerous space while drinking bad coffee and pretending I wasn't scared. Now, I make dough while drinking worse coffee and pretending I don't miss the excitement. At least when a ship exploded, it was over fast. When your sourdough starter dies, it's a slow, sad death that smells like vinegar and failure. The space station, officially called Garbage Can Omega 7, but I call it the Rust Bucket, floats at the edge of a galaxy that was giving up. Stars were going out like candles at a boring party. The space noise sounded like an old computer trying to connect to the internet. And me? I ran the Krusty Comet, a name I picked when I was feeling hopeful. That hope didn't last. Every day I woke up, stared at the ceiling for too long, baked things nobody would eat, and stared at the ceiling again. I made croissants that fell apart like my life. I made baguettes that were hard on the outside and empty on the inside, a little too real for my taste. I made pain au chocolat that tasted more like pain than chocolate. But every day, at exactly 4:17 p.m., my only customer showed up. His name was Xylos. He looked like a tall, fancy praying mantis. His skin shimmered with colors like spilled oil. He had 4 eyes that blinked one after another, which always creeped me out a little. He wore robes that looked like they were made of twilight, and he smelled like ozone and cinnamon. "Good afternoon, Kael," he'd say. His voice sounded like wind chimes, but deeper, like they were also a little sad. "What did you make today?" I'd point at the display case. "Croissants? They're croissant-shaped?" "Wonderful!" He'd clap his 6-fingered hands. "I'll take 3. And then he'd pay me in the weirdest money you could imagine. Last Tuesday, he gave me a forgotten constellation. Now I have a whole star system in my back pocket, but nobody remembers it exists. Which is fine, because I keep forgetting too. The week before, he gave me a minute of stolen time. I used it to take a nap that felt both instant and forever. His favorite payment was dreams about colors that don't exist. I've had 17 of those dreams, and I still can't explain what the colors look like. It's annoying, but also the most interesting thing in my life. "I don't get why you keep coming here," I told him one day, handing over his usual 3 pastries. "There's no one else who bakes. You could make your own bakery appear with those fancy robes." Xylos tilted his head, all 4 eyes blinking in that creepy wave. "But Kael, your pastries have something special. They have you, your fight, your hope, your refusal to stop making things even when nobody needs them." I snorted. That's the most pretentious thing I've ever heard, and I once dated a poet who wrote poems about his belly button. "Your belly button poet sounds lovely." He was awful. "Now eat your croissant before it gets cold, because watching you eat cold pastries is even sadder than watching you eat warm ones." Xylos laughed, a sound like slow-motion crashing stars, and I felt something warm in my chest. Probably heartburn. I'd been eating too many failed experiments. This went on for 6 months? 6 months of daily visits, 6 months of crazy payments, 6 months of the weirdest friendship I'd ever had. And I once was friends with a sentient cloud that tried to sell me a pyramid scheme. But yesterday, everything changed. Xylos showed up at 4:17 p.m., but he didn't look calm. His skin had turned dull gray, his 4 eyes blinked all wrong. I'd learned to tell when he was upset. "Kael," he said, his voice shaky, "I have to tell you something." I was up to my elbows in dough, wrestling with a stubborn batch of brioche. "Let me guess, you're actually a space god who has to destroy the universe, but my croissants are so good you've been putting it off." Xylos stared at me with all 4 eyes.
"Wait," I said, stopping my kneading. "That was a joke. That was a joke, right?" It was not a joke, Xylos said softly. I am a cosmic convergence entity. My job is to end this universe so a new one can start. I've been waiting for 6 months because your bakery is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I looked around my little shop. The flickering sign, the cracked display case, the sourdough starter I'd named Gerald because I talked to him when I was lonely. This place is a mess, I said. It's a mess with a soul, Xylos replied. And I've been avoiding my duty because I don't want to destroy it.
And you want me to say it's okay? No, he looked sad. I want you to understand. I'm not mean. I just have to do it. The universe is tired. It's been tired for a long time. I thought about that. The dying stars, the fading galaxies, the space noise that sounded like a long, tired sigh. The fact that I was the last baker because everyone else had given up. The universe is tired, I repeated. Yeah, I get that. I'm tired too. Xylos nodded. I know. That's why I thought you'd understand. But here's the thing, I said, pointing a flowery finger at him. I'm also stubborn, and I'm also petty. And I've spent 6 months baking bread that only you eat, and you're telling me my bread made you delay the end of everything? It did. Then here's my deal. I grabbed a lump of dough and slammed it on the counter. One perfect loaf of bread. If it makes you feel something, really feel something. Not just, oh, that's nice. You delay the end. If not, I won't stop you.
Xylos' eyes went wide. Kael, I am a cosmic being. I've seen 100,000 universes born and die. I've felt every feeling that ever existed, and some that didn't. What could a loaf of bread make me feel that I haven't felt before? I don't know, I admitted, but I'm betting on something. I spent the next 3 hours baking like a madman. I threw flour like magic dust. I punched dough like it owed me money. I asked Gerald, the sourdough starter, for advice. He'd been alive longer than most planets and always had opinions. More salt, Gerald seemed to bubble. Less drama, more salt. You're not my boss, I told him. But I added more salt anyway. I used ingredients that had been sitting in my pantry since before the last sun died. I used tricks I'd learned from a hologram grandma who'd been dead for thousands of years. I put all of myself into that dough. All my loneliness, all my stubbornness, all my silly, desperate hope. When I pulled the loaf out of the oven, it was something else. Golden brown, beautiful. It smelled like home, even though I didn't know where home was anymore. It gave off a warmth that wasn't just heat. Here, I said, putting it on the counter. Try it. Xylos looked at the bread like it was holy. His hands shook as he reached for it. He tore off a piece. The crust cracked perfectly and put it in his mouth. He chewed. He swallowed. And then he cried. Real tears. Not space god tears, but messy, human tears. They dripped down his shimmering face and sizzled when they hit his robes. "What is this?" he whispered. "What did you do to me?" "I baked bread," I said. "What does it feel like?" "It feels like someone is holding me, like someone sees me, like the universe isn't just ending, but it's ending gently, with someone who cares. It feels like the last star isn't alone." "That's the yeast," I said, but my voice cracked a little. "Gerald's been through a lot." Xylos laughed through his tears.
You amazing creature. You stubborn, beautiful creature. You made me feel something I've never felt before. Yeah? I asked, my heart pounding. What's that? Hope, he said. I'm feeling hope. And I've never felt that. Not once. Not in 100,000 universes. We stood there in silence. The space noise hummed its old computer sound. The sign flickered. Gerald bubbled happily. Okay, I said finally. So, apocalypse? Xylos wiped his tears and looked at the loaf. Delayed. How long? I don't know. He smiled.
A real smile. Not his usual calm look, but messy and human. Maybe forever. Maybe just long enough for you to bake me another loaf. Deal, I said. And that's how I saved the universe, with bread. But I didn't just save it. I changed it. Xylos took the bread to his space god bosses. He had a whole council of universe enders, and they all tried it. They all cried. They all felt hope for the first time ever. The universe didn't end. Instead, the cosmic beings decided that maybe life was worth keeping, just to see what humans would bake next. They started coming to my shop, all of them. Cosmic entities, star weavers, reality shapers, the whole celestial crowd. They'd pop into my bakery, pay me in crazy money. I now own 17 forgotten constellations, a month of stolen time, and way too many dreams about colors that don't exist, and buy croissants. The galaxy didn't get better overnight. Stars still died, the space noise still sounded like bad internet, but people started coming back. Other bakers opened shops. The universe felt less tired. And Xylos? He stayed. He's my partner now. Not a romantic thing. He's a four-eyed space god, and I'm a sad ex-pilot with flour in my hair. But a better kind of partner. He's my friend, my coworker, the one who makes me laugh when I'm staring at the ceiling, wondering what the point is. What's the point? I asked him last week, as we closed up. Bread, he said simply. The point is bread. And hope. And the fact that you refuse to give up, even when giving up would have been so much easier. Pretty cheesy for a space god, I said. You taught me that. The cheese, the bread, the whole messy, beautiful, stupid business of being alive. So that's the story. How a sad baker saved everything with sourdough and stubbornness. How a cosmic being learned to cry. How the universe got a second chance. All because someone cared enough to keep baking when nobody was buying. I'm still running the bakery. Xylos still comes at 4:17 p.m. The universe is still dying, but slower now. And that makes all the difference. And if you ever find yourself at the edge of a dying galaxy, look for a space station called the Rust Bucket. Find the bakery with the flickering sign, order something, anything, and know it was made by someone who refused to let the light go out. It'll cost you a forgotten constellation, or a minute of stolen time, or just the memory of a dream about a color that doesn't exist. Trust me, it's worth it. Now, excuse me. I have a sourdough starter to feed and an apocalypse to put off. Gerald's been giving me attitude again.